Okay. So, nuclear magnetic resonance. So, nuclear magnetic resonance is abbreviated as NMR. There's no radiation involved. It's not nuclear. Our engineer that works on a magnet is always being stopped at the airport because he's a nuclear magnetic resonance engineer, so we're going to be right where we're brought. So, but it is magnetic. So we'll go through each one of those lines. This gives us very detailed information because I'm going to look at the carbon and hydrogen structure and skeleton with proton with NMR. Can I determine the structure from scratch? I think I'm pretty close if I know what I'm doing. If I know all the techniques that we're not going to talk about. But have I done them from scratch? Yeah. I think for a film couple of years said, you tell me what this is. It's not enough program area. It's reverse engineering products. It happens all the time. So I think I got it, and then you told me it was oh, I know that. But I have another one in the lab. Eventually. So I'm going to look at carbon hydrogen. So first we're going to start with the nucleus. The nucleus of any element can be thought of as a spinning like gyroscope for the Earth. And so it's going to precess around a nuclear field. And so what we know from basic physics is you have a moving charge. That moving charge creates a magnetic field. In mass spectrometry, our moving charge is able to be moved by a magnet. So in NMR, our spinning nucleus now has a magnetic field associated with it. So when we look at, wait, it went past my, here's a video of a spinning nucleus, and now it's precessing. This one's a little bit better because they attached a motor to it. Somewhere in the lab I have it So there is my nucleus spinning on the inside, and there it's precessing around ground. So that's the kind of motion that we see for that spinning gyroscope. So that's what we see with the nucleus, spinning on the inside, spinning around, and then precessing. Because I'll come back to the precessing. So just a random collection of nuclei that's not inside of a magnetic field. The nuclei are just randomly arranged. So that's the picture on the right. They're just kind of randomly arranged, but put those nuclei inside of a magnetic field and they straighten up. They either become aligned with the field or against the field. So these spinning nuclei, we can think of them as like little bar magnets. And we can think of the big magnet that they're sitting inside of as also a bar magnet. So right, the bar magnets can either have the poles in the same direction or they can have the poles in the opposite direction. One they would smash together and stick, the other one they shoot apart. Right? These nuclei are going to do the same thing. They're either going to be aligned with the field or against the field. When they're aligned with the field, and there's physics notations for this. We're not going to go into detail. We're certainly not going to go into that. Because that'll. But when you have the V0 and it's pointing up, that's our external magnetic field. So next door, I'll show you pictures. We have a huge magnet, and so basically that's our magnet. You can kind of think of it as maybe like a horseshoe. So our nuclei are either lined with that field, V0, or against. So think about spectro. Now I'm back to back to spectroscopy. Back to spectroscopy. And we talked about the light and the molecules we need to be in the brittle state. I've now put my nuclei in there. So it's sort of analogous, but whether the magnets are like smacked together or pushing away, I'm not even going to try and make that analogy for the nuclei being against, with, or against is the most important one. Most important part. So we have this collection of nuclei. If they are aligned with the field, they're in the ground state. If they're aligned against the field, they're in the excited state. So we're right back to where we were with IR. We've got the excited state, and we've got the ground state. And of course, like any ground state, excited state system, there is an exact energy between them. Not just it's going to take about this much energy, it's going to take exactly this much energy. So it's quantized. And so if a nucleus absorbs energy, it pops up into the excited state. And then as I'll show you later on, if it's in the excited state, it's not there forever. Somehow it's got to lose its energy and go back to the ground state. That's actually the principle behind MRI. I'll remind you of that in a few minutes. So that change in energy state is what we're going to measure. Now the question is, what frequency of light does that molecule, or does that nucleus have to absorb to do this ground state, excited state? And that is going to be in the radio frequency of electromagnetic. So in mass spectrometry, we did not use any electromagnetic radiation. In NMR spectroscopy, we did. It's radio frequency. And I'm going to go through the easy sort of physical processes this week, and then we'll have our heads explored next week when we get into the more detailed things. And what makes my head explode is that the easiest way to teach this, we haven't done that. The instruments that are set up that way haven't been used for 20 bucks. And I haven't come up with a good way to explain how. So we'll have to go back. So here's what happens. That nucleus, you might say radio frequency, well, where's the frequency? The nucleus, just like the gyroscope, spins like this. That precessional frequency is in the radio frequency and of the electromagnetic spectrum. So this thing spins around in the megahertz. In the days when we had radios, just in the model, nowhere else. We have things like kilohertz for AM radio, and then we have like megahertz for FM. There's an analogy. But this is in megahertz. So what happens is that when we apply the radio frequency that matches up with this, the nucleus flips. It's still doing this, but now it's going from with the field to against the field. So that's where the radio frequency part comes into play. I have to apply exactly the correct radio frequency to the exact, what's called Nmr frequency of the nucleus, and then it will do what's called a spin flip and go from with frequency. And if you want the math, there's the math with the magneto-gyroid-inflation and all of that stuff. One thing I will say about this is that this Nmr frequency, which for some reason is not omega, it's BL, and this it is proportional to the applied magnetic. It's proportional up to that in that equation. So that's our spin flip. And when the molecule absorbs energy, it goes from ground state to excited state, and we will see a peak on the spectrum. So far it's kind of like IR. Different phenomenon, same general principle. So apply the radio frequency, do the spin flip, and go from the ground state to the excited state. So that's what we're going to do in NMR spectroscopy. We need to put the sample inside of a magnetic field. When you have an MRI done, you are the sample inside of the big magnetic field with the magnet. We take samples, we put them in little tubes and drop them into the center of the magnet. And then they spin. They don't spin the MRI. And don't ask me what the pounding sound is, because I don't know. I'm not an MRI technician, but that's the thing that drives people off the wall the most, is the pounding of the instrument. Okay, so then we end up with a spectrum. So here's the spectrum of methyl chloride. This peak corresponds to the frequency of the spin flip for those three hydrogens. So we're going to start talking about Proton Nmr first. What's the proton? It's the nucleus of a hydrogen. So that's where the proton part comes in. We're first going to talk about the protons, and we're going to have a spectrum that shows all the different kinds of hydrogens, all the different kinds of protons in the molecule. And from this spectrum, where the peak is on the scale, which I'll talk about next week, the size of the peak, which we can integrate like a GC, tell us how many hydrogens there are in that peak. And from something else called splitting, we'll be able to put the structure together. Or at least we'll be able to tell the difference between methyl, ethyl, propyl, isopropyl, butyl, pentyls, all the different isomers. We'll do some problems with that, and we'll do some other problems with it, where you'll actually be able to tell the differences to all the different alphabets. We haven't been able to do that so far with iron. So this is that's where it's going to get interesting. So when you're using what's the NMR instrument, they need a magnetic field. And we usually don't measure, or at least I don't measure, the magnetic field in Tesla. Although Tesla is the unit of magnetic field. We have a 7 or something Tesla magnet. Normally what we do is we measure the magnetic field, we represent it by how fast the proton moves through the precess. So if they're precessing at roughly 60 megahertz, we have a 60 megahertz. If they're precessing at 1,000 megahertz, to give a gigahertz, then that's how we measure it. So those NMR instruments run from anywhere from 600 to 900. So that's anywhere from a 1/5 of a 7 Tesla magnet up to 3 times a 7 Tesla magnet. So And there's all sorts of these instruments out there. I'm going to kind of show you that. And then like, who cares? Who cares whether I have a 60 megahertz or I have a black hole? Well, I'll show you what the costs of these things are. And somebody cares because somebody's in that. And then what we can use them for. So what are called high resolution instruments are between 300 and 600. We have a 300. They don't make 300 anymore. If I have to go buy a new one, I've got to buy 400. Fortunately, the room was designed for 400. No doubt about that. Sometimes they build a building around kinetic. They have no choice. An ultra-high field instrument is 900 to 1,000 megahertz. And then somebody's expected will deliver a 1,200 megahertz instrument between 2015 and 2012. So, if I change the magnetic field strength, I change the precessional frequency portion. So in our instrument, it's spinning at 300 megahertz. If I double the magnetic field, it's 600. So that circular magnetic field is. And that's a fundamental thing that we have to keep track of. Okay. So next. So here is a 60 megahertz instrument circa 1970 to early 1980. This is the kind of instrument that Clarion. And so it's just a table. Inside of here was an electrometer. So if you grab metal with a copper coil and pass a current through it, you get the magnetic. So it had a magnetic field strength that caused the nuclei to spin. I always thought we were done with 60 megahertz, that they were gone, but nowadays people buy benched up instruments. And when the sales guy tries to sell them to me, 300, that's better than 60. You're going to sell them 300, if you're going to sell them 60 for $20,000, we're going to sell them one for $80,000, this for another $100,000. So this is what that did. It didn't even have a computer. It had a pen attached to a thing that moved across the piece of paper and drew the signals. Ours, there were like things in here that you had to take out and jiggle and put back in. Tubes and stuff. When I was a senior, we were taking, I forget, organic synthesis or something. I said, can I go down and use the NMR? And they stopped. I said, oh, sure, okay. They hadn't run those. I got down there, I knew about the figure and stuff. It took me 20 minutes to figure out what this was. And then when I figured out it was upside down, I'm like, so then I got to run inside. Back with the stuff. You knew it wasn't going to run. I learned a lot about what not to do. So this is 60 megahertz. The key thing about this is, and this is the way we're going to talk about the phenomenon next week, what happens is you apply a radio frequency, a fixed radio frequency, and then with the electromagnet, if you change the current, you can change the frequency of the nucleus so that if you apply more current, it spins faster. If you apply less current, it spins slower. And what would happen is you would get the right magnetic field with the right frequency. It would absorb the radio frequency. The instrument next door has a fixed magnetic field and would change the radio frequency. So we're going to talk about instruments where the radio frequency is fixed and we change the magnetic field next week when we get into the radio frequency. So nobody uses this kind of technique anymore. Not even 60 megahertz, like you said. So when the nucleus is spinning at exactly the same frequency as the radio frequency, that is called resonance. And when the nucleus is in resonance with the radio frequency, so nuclear magnetic resonance, I'm looking at the nucleus in a magnetic field, and I'm flipping the spin because the system is in resonance with the same frequency. Okay, so pretty simple instrumentation in theory. Put your sample inside of a radio frequency coil, or inside of a magnetic field with a radio frequency coil to apply the radio frequency in a detector coil, and you have an NMR. These have been around since the 50s. All the people that were instrumental in developing this all won Nobel Prizes. So it's become an incredibly important technique, not just in organic chemistry, but in biochemistry, molecular biology. There are a dozen high-field instruments within the Cleveland area, not even at companies, just at universities, at the clinic. And I'll show you a picture of the clinics in a minute. Here's ours. Sadly, the R2D2 magnet, right, from whatever Star Wars or maybe remember the R2D2 magnet is, get that right. It died as I was filling it with helium, and it was shot right in front of my face. That were exchanged, things were thrown, and it died. If you now go in there, you'll see it's still 300 megawatts. And there's all this stuff that goes with it. We got to spin the sample, so we need all the schematic stuff. We got a computer that runs under Unix, so I don't even mess with that. We've got all the electronics here. About half of this is empty because if we filled up with stuff as we upgraded it, and then you've got another thing. So the sample actually sits right here in the magnet. There's a tube at the top. We blow air up and we set the sample on there, and then we release the air and it slowly drops down and then we spin it around. So that's our 300 megahertz. The little NMR thing that a research student back in the 90s, in the early 2000s. I don't know where it is. He's probably still stuck with it. This is in a storage closet. It could come out for Halloween and get dressed up as R2D2 if necessary. I don't have that kind of time. This is called a superconducting. We use superconducting magnets now. So in physics, you talk about superconducting materials. Superconducting materials are materials that, when you apply current to them, they generate magnetic field, but if they're in liquid helium, there's no resistance. So once you put the current into it, the current just keeps going around and around and around as long as the material stays in liquid helium. And so the way we generate a sudden Tesla magnet is that we put the magnetic stuff inside of liquid helium, and then there's liquid nitrogen around that to keep the liquid helium from boiling off. And there's a vacuum. This is like a big Dewar system. And so really the magnet itself is just a very small part of this. But this requires liquid helium to go in every 6 weeks. The entry is going to come in a fill it. I think Dr. Dr. Shannon, I'm filling it every week with liquid nitrogen to keep the liquid helium from boiling off too much. But if the superconducting material ever gets hot, then it starts to heat up, starts to lose current, starts to boil the liquid helium, and it shoots out everything, which it did to me. And then it was dead. And that was $10,000 more. Here's a 900 megahertz instrumental case, or I guess what's called the Cleveland Center for Structural. There used to be an NMR facility when you drove down town. There was like this little place that looked like a fish like that. You got all these structure, all these sculptures outside. So this is a 900 megahertz instrument. Dr. Simmons confirmed to me that they built the building around this magnet. The she is pretty much straight in. To get to the top of the magnet, to put your sample in, you got to walk up the stairs. None of this is magnetic. So all that metal has to be non-magnetic. And then this one you can actually like get to the stuff down here without going down. But some of them you have to go downstairs more than this. Yeah, to tune it's that's going to be a 21, 22 Tesla. Yes, it's a building. We're in the control room. Dr. Wayne and I are in the control room to keep everything, the computers and everything working. Although with new magnets, what they do is they shield this so the magnetic field doesn't come out. But that's 900 megahertz. That's 3 times the power of ours. So then as I was updating my slides on there as well, I was like, well, I wonder what the most powerful magnet is on the Earth. And so then I did some Google searching and found out that basically you can buy one of these. The Bruker company, which is one of 2 major on our instrument. The Bruker is JAL, the one we have, Brad. The one we have there, the one at the end. And then there's a third one that Chinese making that stuff. And surprisingly looks like stuff on it. So we'll just leave it at that. So this is a Bruker 1,000 megahertz. They put one of these in Europe within the last 5 years. $25. That's what it costs for 150 hertz. If we had to replace ours, it'd probably be looking at $300,000. That's what we're. But we don't all. In Japan, they've now come up with a 1020. That's how big it is. Again, it's got like multiple ladders to get to the top, and it's only 20 megahertz more than that. I don't even think they put this in yet, but at 25 million. I think for the 25 million you get the magnet and then everything associated with it, and training, and a 1 year warranty. Yes. So Case has the 900. I mean, if you're going to put one of these in, you kind of have to have a new building. Because you can't have computers, you can't have anything metallic. If you ever look at our instrument, we'll be in there taking on our spectrum during the semester. You'll see that the ceiling goes up a little bit. Ideally, there's nothing within that field. It's not like you walk into it. It's going to like stick you to the magnet and never going to get you off if you're wearing, something metallic. Although I could probably have a wrench like on the ball. That's how they tune it on. It's at the high. It's at its field and everything's good. So who cares? Who cares about the strength of the field? If I got to go from 300 to 400, is that going to benefit? Is there going to be a benefit to that? Why am I, in some cases, very obnoxious to the salespeople that want to sell me on 60 or 90 megahertz benchmark? And we'll get into some of the details of that, but part of the reason is because of the fact that when you change the magnetic field that the sample's in, you proportionally cause the nuclei to spin fast. So yeah, it's spinning at 300 megahertz in a 7 Tesla magnet, and you go up twice that, it'll spin at 600. You go up one more spot, it'll go to 900. Now, why would that be important? It would be important because if you think about the idea of resolution and resolving two peaks in the spectrum, let's say you had two peaks that were hertz apart at 300 megahertz. Now, one of the things with radio frequency is, radio frequency, you can detect it and you can apply it with incredible precision. So you can detect a hertz difference out of 300 megahertz. Next week we're going to talk about that's 1 hertz in a million hertz. That's a part per million. 1 in a million is, you're taking the analytical, you'll eventually talk about hertz. So you can detect at least a hertz out of 300 megahertz of applied frequency, the difference in the hertz. So let's say that's the best you could do. Well, if you go to then a 900 megahertz instrument, the frequencies now have tripled in both cases, so the difference has tripled. And if your electronics can separate two peaks that are hertz, those two peaks that were just barely separable, easily separable in the frequency. Now, what kind of molecules might have a whole mess of protons or a whole mess of hydrogen atoms in a very small window of the spectrum that I might want to resolve that? Biomolecules. DNA, RNA, proteins. So when I have a lot of hydrogen smushed together and I want to resolve them, I've got to go to higher field. So I'm not going to go to Case and say, hey, can you give me some 900 megahertz NMR time to measure the spectrum of anything I need. That's going to be good. No, because we could get away with that 60. But if I'm doing structural work, structural biology, biochemistry, molecular biology, then I want to look at a protein, I have no choice. I got a minimum 600, then 900. They go as Case has, I think it's accurate as the big NMR site. I think the way so. That's a big deal. If you got to put it inside of an existing building, you have to which means you have to. Never seen that happen, but I've seen it take instruments out, take a window out, and show that I've never seen it. So why am I going to spend, why am I going to spend $15 to $20 million? Number one, that instrument's going to be used by all of you, because everybody's going to pay for it. And I'm only going to be looking at biomolecules. And I'm going to look at the drug discovery, all of that. And so there is a need for those high field instruments and that resolution, and the area is bio. Now, bio-NMR doesn't necessarily show up in the biology or genetics books, but if people can determine structures, remember, if you can't get a single crystal of a biomolecule from last week, if you can't get that single crystal, you can't get a crystal structure. If it's small enough, you can do NMR candidates and determine, like, if it's folded, if it's not folded, if it's alpha helix, if it's not alpha helix. You can find all of them. So there is a need for these high field instruments. And that's the reason. So nobody has to call in is a clinic and Case and other. So if you want to replace the one that we can when it dies, which hopefully it didn't hear me. because I've got enough problems with it as it stands. There's all sorts of... Okay, last thing then.
Today's just going to kind of be an introduction, and then next week, like I said, we'll be next week. No, we'll take a little bit of time. We could just say, interpret the spectrum, and we're going to get to that, but a little bit of theory behind it.
So when they stick you inside of an NMR, number one, they're using a cryomagnet. So they're using a magnet with cryogenic materials, and so that thing has to be filled with helium, and NMR just, or helium and nitrogen, liquid helium with the nitrogen at the hospital. Incredibly powerful field, which is why you're not allowed to enter the room with anything metal. There's a radio frequency coil that you sit inside of. So basically, our sample would be a tube that's sitting in like this, only the top of that. You're horizontal if you're in the same system. Incredibly strong magnets. I've heard stories of salespeople that have been, or tech engineers that have setting these things up and other people that are more fun. And then they come about with the so very powerful. It's like you have like a full mechanic it's completely different. So when you get an NMR taken, in the context of what we just talked about, well, more frequencies, spin, flipping, what is the instrument doing? Basically what the instrument is doing is it's measuring the density of water molecules, namely the protons, nucleus in the water molecules. It's measuring that density. So it's imaging soft tissue. And so that's what the MRI is doing. Now, the way it's doing it, we see peaks. They image to see density of water. And that's done based on what's called the relaxation domain. The T1 and T2. Kind of like a T1 star. I was in the interview for that song when I was practicing. The T2 star, I think not an NMR job. Put it on in somebody. Wrong person. I can take them, I can do lots of things that most people can't, but not an expert. I think T2 wanted to do relaxation. So, very simply, the protons, when they get hit by radiation, they go into the cell. They gotta get out of it. And so the way they get out of it is by colliding with another molecule. Sometimes it's what's called dipolar coupling, where another polar molecule is next to it. And there's a time factor. In our system, when the nuclei go up into the excited state, they give off their energy with the oxygen involved in salt. If I remove all the oxygen from the system, they relax incredibly slowly because there's nothing for them to give their energy. So you can measure that time. That's into it, so you can measure that time. So what they know in MRI is that when the water is bound to whatever, cell, the organ, that it has like this type of relaxation curve. And then when it's in the intermediate layer where it can move around, it's got a different relaxation curve. And then when it's completely free, it has a third relaxation curve. And so what they can do is they can apply that radio frequency pulse to the soft tissue and then measure how long it takes for each type of water molecule to relax.
And so if they know that time, they can image it so that you can get an image of the soft tissue. It's not, I always thought it was a concentration difference in water. It's actually whether the water is free, soda bound, that's what involves. And so that's how you image the soft tissue. And then there's relaxation times for fat and liver and muscle and groundwater and all of that stuff. And if you do have, a malignant tissue in there, then that tissue, this water at the surface is probably going to have a slightly higher relaxation. It'll have a higher value of relaxation. So that's the logic in which so it's all based on that basic principle of I got a hydrogen nucleus, I'm going to apply the radio frequency to it, I'm going to flip its spin, and then in that case I'm going to wait for the spin to relax that thing. And that's what they're measuring when they're doing MRI. I think they can who went off and actually after the and they were working on using different nuclei other than hydrogen to image soft tissue. So it'd be one of those things that will give you a dog or something going. So that's how MRI goes. So what we're going to talk about next week is we're going to talk about how we use the spectrum with the repeats in order to determine the structure of an organic molecule. And so that's how we can determine the structure of the drug, or if I got a 900 and I want to determine the structure of the protein, I can do that as well. So let's do next week. Let's do next week is the mass spec homework problems. If the IRs are ready for them to go. So you can stop at the table over there and get your IR. If you have any questions about it, feel free to ask me. And so that's next week.